So good day everyone. Our topic for today is about CSS or cascading style sheets. So what is CSS? Again, CSS stands for cascading style sheets. CSS is the standard language for defining styles on web pages. Although CSS is more widely known for its application in HTML documents, it can be used for defining styles for any structured document format, such as XML, for example. Styles are set using CSS properties. So for example, you can set font properties like size, colors, style, and others, background images, border styles, and much more. CSS has gone through some major changes since CSS Level 1 became a W3C recommendation in December 1996. CSS1 described the CSS language as well as a simple visual formatting model. CSS2, which became a W3C recommendation in May 1998, building on CSS1 and adds support for media-specific style sheets, printers, and oral devices, downloadable fonts, element positioning in tables. Currently, we have also CSS3, includes more advanced features such as animation, background gradients, multi-column, layouts, border, images, and more. Maybe you are asking, how will be able to compare HTML versus CSS? It is not really HTML versus CSS. In fact, HTML and CSS are the best buddy. CSS is a supplementary extension of to HTML. The purpose of HTML is to provide document structure and meaning. This is particularly true with the introduction of HTML5. And you use HTML to specify what elements go on the page, like headings, paragraphs, tables, images, and others. Each of these elements, as well as, of course, their attributes and attribute values, have a certain meaning. In CSS, you can specify how those HTML elements look, but not just how they look, how they are presented. After all, you can use CSS to provide styles for speech output. So for example, for users using a screen reader, so you can write an HTML document without being concerned with each presentation. Then use CSS to specify how it will be presented within any given context. Not only this, but you can change the CSS without having to change the HTML. In other words, you can plug a style sheet into an HTML document and the HTML document will immediately take on the styles of the style sheet. So, I will give you an example of an HTML and convert into a CSS or adding CSS tags. So, as what we have here, so we have a document HTML, the HTML tags, head, title, closing tag, body, and so on and so forth. So if we're going to run this one, so web 1A. So this will be the output. How about if we want to do an HTML tags? Okay, so as you can see here, this time we are now using style or style tag, no? Considering of course the width, the height, the padding, the background, of course even the use of H1 or the header 1, the paragraph, and closing tag for our style. So as what we have here, that is save as CSS1. So file save again, okay, then run. So what will be the output? So this will be the output. Okay, a while ago, this will be an output with HTML, adding some CSS tags. So this time, I just want to give you some another example. So as what we have here, we consider a background color. Of course, the font size, the color, of course, for this CSS tag embedded in HTML. So file save. So CSS2. And this will be the output. Now, the CSS syntax actually, so I will show you again the so as what we have here, the CSS syntax consists of a set of rules. And these rules have three parts: a selector, a property, and a value. So you don't need to remember this in order to code CSS. So once you start coding CSS, you'll do so without thinking. This is a selector or that is a property. This should begin to make sense once you study the example of this discussion. So as what we have here, this will be the syntax, okay? Selector, of course, the begin, then property, then the value. So an example of this, for example, if you are using H1 or header 1, the color, of course, is blue, for example. The selector represents the HTML elements that you want to style. So in this code, this H1 tells the browser to render all occurrences of the HTML H1 element in blue. Now, how about grouping selectors? You can apply a style to many selectors if you like. Just separate the selectors with a comma. So as what we have here, H1, comma, H2 up to H6. Then color is blue. In applying multiple properties, to apply more than one property, separate each declaration with a semicolon. So as what we have here, color is blue, semicolon, font dash family, Arial, Helvetica, then sans serif. So you can make your CSS code more readable by spreading your style declaration across multiple lines. And you can also indent your code if you like. And this doesn't affect how your code is rendered. It just makes it easier for you to read. So when it comes to readability, we have here, as you can see. So by this time, I think you now learn about the CSS syntax, but how do you incorporate the syntax into your website? So, of course, we have what we call inline styles. With inline styles, style sheet information is applied directly to the HTML element. Instead of defining the style once, then applying the style against all instances of an element. Say, for example, the p tag, you add the style directly to the specific element you want the style to apply to. Okay? So, for example, as what we have here. So, P style is equal to color, olive, font size, 24 pixels. Then, of course, the HTML style sheet with CSS. While inline styles can be quick and convenient way to add styles to an HTML document, this method should be used sparingly. Adding inline styles are all over a website can make it much more difficult to maintain. A small change can become a major undertaking if the style has been applied to many pages across the site. So, we have embedded style. You add all CSS information to one part of the document, usually at the top. This allows you to style any element on the page from a single place. You do this by embedding the CSS information within style tags in the head of your document. So, for example, as what we have here, we have the style tags here. Then the body, the background color, the font size, H1, and other application or other tags. So I will give you an example of where the code fits to an HTML tags. So as what we have here, we have doctype.html, of course the HTML opening tag, the head, the title, and as what we have here, we have a style tag. So then the body, background color, the font size, and so on. And we are embedded styles in HTML tags. So we save it as CSS2 as what we have here. So if we're going to run this code, and this will be the output. Okay, this is the CSS2 output. Okay, now, how about the external style? So external style sheets are the most common method of applying style to a website, and most modern websites use an external style sheets to apply site-wide style to the whole website. Because external styles refer to creating a separate file that contain all style information, no? In this file is then linked to from as many HTML pages as you like. And this will open to the whole website. To add an external style sheet to a web page, use the link tag, providing the URL of the style sheet in the href attribute as well as real style sheet. So I have here an example. So this will be an example of an external styles. Okay? So as I mentioned earlier, we use link tags, then real style sheet. Then as what we have a while ago, we have css2.htm, .htm. Okay? So since it's already saved actually, then we're going to run. And this will be the output actually. How about import styles? So you can use the CSS import rule to import an external style sheets. To do this, use the style tag. And you can use either of the following syntaxes. So as what we have here. Then again, I will give you an example of this style sheet using import rule to import the style sheet. So as what we have here, this will be our example using import rule to import the style sheet. So this will be the head, the link, and the href. So for example, then if we are going to run this code, this will be the sample output. Actually, you are not limited to just one method for applying styles to a document. You can combine, of course, all three methods if required. So most modern websites use external styles for most of their styles. However, there are many valid reasons why they might also need to use one or both of the other methods. So, CSS classes give you extra flexibility for specifying which elements are to receive a particular style. So, in CSS, classes allow you to apply a style to a given class of an element. To do this, you can link the element to the style by declaring a style for the class, then assigning the class to the element. So, for example, you can actually you declare a CSS class by using a dot, okay, or period, followed by the class name. So as what we have here, okay, dot class name. You make up the class name yourself. After the class name, you simply enter the properties or values that you want to assign to your class. But if you want to use the name same class name for multiple elements, but each with a different style, you can prefix the dot with the HTML element name. So this will be an example, p.large. So, okay, for example, again, so I have here the example. So, doc type HTML, title, for example, example for the CSS class example, of course, for the class or syntax, CSS class syntax. Okay, then, of course, div.css selection, border, padding, and as what I've mentioned, using that sign, as for class name, then the style, and so on and so forth. So if we wanted to run this one, so this will be the output. Okay. Then you can also select elements or classes that listed within another element or class. So for example, div.css the selection p will select all p element or tags that are listed within a div or div tag element that uses the .css section class. Actually, one major benefit of doing this is that you don't need to apply a class to every instance of an element when it's needed within another element that uses a class. So, another example, okay, as what I have mentioned. So, this will be a 5, no? It's 5. So, this will be the output of this sample tags using a instance of an element, no, nested within another elements that uses a class. Okay. So how about CSS ID syntax? Any HTML elements can have the ID attribute applied to it. The value of this attribute is the element unique identifier. So, for example, H1 equals main heading gives the element a unique identifier of main heading. And we can reference that ID from or within our CSS code. So this will be the syntax of declaring CSS ID. Okay? In the same as for classes, except instead of using a dot, you use a hash. Okay? And again, similar to classes, if you want to use the same ID name for multiple elements, but each with a different style, you can prefix the hash with the HTML element name. So as what we have here, instead of P dot intro, we are allowed to use also P hash. Okay? Then IDs versus classes. Given classes in IDs are very similar. You may wondering which one to use. When to use classes, you should use classes when your style needs to be applied multiple times on the same page. So for example, you might have many H1 tags elements that need the same style applied. Then when to use IDs? When you use IDs, if only one element on the page should have the style applied and or you need a unique identifier for the element. So for example, you might assign an ID to a nav or navigation tag, no, which contains your left menu. The style for this ID could contain the position, background color, float properties, size, and others. And you probably wouldn't want any other element on the page to use this particular style. So another useful thing about IDs is that you can use the document object model or DOM to refer to them. And this enables you to use JavaScript or HTML techniques to build a much more interactive website. However, there's a school of thought within the developer community that frowns upon ID selectors. In fact, some developers state that you should never ever use ID selectors. And this is a decision that you will need to make. It is quite possible to develop a website without using ID selectors. But when it comes to more selectors, we've only covered a few of most common selectors. So CS include many more selectors that you have that you can use when selecting an element for styling. So things you can do with selectors: select only those elements that have a certain attribute. You can select a certain element that has a certain attribute with a certain value. You can select a specific element, but only when it's inside another specific element. And you can select only the first child of a specific element. Select only the last child of the specific element. You can even specify which child, either third child, fourth, and fifth, and others. Select an element only when it's being hovered over, and a lot more. Of course, we have a CSS font family. Okay, so I will give you an example. Okay, so we have CSS font family. So the font family properties allow you to set the font family. So as what we have here. Okay, so font, das family, Georgia, Garamond, Sirip, and so on. So the font family property accepts a list of different font families. And this is because not all users will have the same fonts installed on their computer. Therefore, as a designer or developer, you can provide a list of fonts starting with your first choice and ending with your last choice. So if the user doesn't have your first choice font, the second choice will be used for that user. If they don't have the second choice, the third choice will be used, and so on. It's good practice to make your last choice a generic font family such as serif or sans serif, depending on whatever you want a font with serifs or not. This way, if none of the other choices are on the user's computer, their computer will choose a font that is on their computer based on the generic family that you provide. Okay. CSS font size. It enables you to set the size of the text. So for info of the possible values, so we have the font size page as what we have here. So this code display the output based on the given here at the bottom. Then we have CSS font size adjust. This property enables you to adjust the X height to make fonts more legible. So we have CSS font stretch. This property relies on the user's computer to have an expanded or condensed version of the font being used. CSS font style. So the font style property is used for specifying italic text. And we have CSS font variant. Enables you to set your text to use small caps. We have CSS font weight. Enables you to set your text to bold. And we have CSS font property. The font property is a shorthand property that enables you to set all font properties in one go. CSS text properties. Apart from the various CSS font properties, there are other properties that can assist in styling your text. So for example, you can change the color of text, align text, and decoration properties and more. In CSS, text can be styled using the properties. Using this list, you can learn how to use its CSS text property and what it looks like in a browser. So we have here the CSS text align. So as what we have here, the text CSS is aligned right. So that's why based on our given output, so the output is aligned right. This one is the CSS text indent. Okay. So same as what we did in our paragraph. So based on the given sample, so we have a tab before the word this text is indented by 50 pixels. Okay, so this will be the code and this will be the sample output. For CSS letter spacing, so in HTML, we always asking, sir, what will be the way on how we'll be able to have a space in with our word. Okay, so we are using NBSP. So by this time, using CSS text properties, we use CSS letter spacing. Another way around the CSS word spacing. So this will be the code and this will be our output. For CSS text direction, okay, so overline, line through, underline, link, and others. So this will be the code and this will be our sample output. For the CSS text transform, so uppercase, lowercase, capitalize, and so on. So this will be the output for our uppercase, lowercase, and capitalize. Then for the text direction, so as what we have here, that is RT1. No? So it also are aligned right to left. Then CSS Unicode BD or override. Okay, so this will be the output. And the CSS text shadow. Okay, so as what we have here, based on our given output, we have a shadow in our text. If your browser supports the CSS text shadow property, this text will as shadow. Then another CSS text property is the CSS white space. Okay, so using the pre. So this text has a line break. Actually, it has many lines break. And the white space. So using pre, so white space under CSS text property. Another CSS includes height and width properties to help you specify the size of your elements. So we have height and width properties. So based on the given example, we have height 150 pixels, width is 75 pixels. And if we're going to run this code, this will be the output. Another, of course, is the max height and max width properties. So max height, for example, is 150 pixels. Max width is 75 pixels. And if we're going to run these sample tags, this will be our output. Actually, it enables you to constrain the height and or width of an element to a maximum value. Another, of course, is the mean height and mean width properties. So it enables you to constrain the height or width of an element to a minimum value. So as a minimum value height, 150 pixels, minimum width is 75 pixels. So if we're going to run this one, of course, this will be our output. So we need to take note that height and width can be affected by borders and padding. So we will be able to discuss this one later. So another CSS background codes demonstrate the various CSS properties you can use to style the background of any HTML element. So CSS background color. So to set the background color of an element, use the background dash color property. So as what we have here, div, begin, padding, 20 pixels, background dash color yellow, then end, then the style. So this will be the sample output. For the background image, to add background image to an element, use the background dash image property. So as what we have here. So assuming that our image name as bg2.png. Okay. So, and this will be the output. Then to CSS background repeat. So determine whether the background image repeats, tiles or not. So this will be the code. So background does repeat, no does repeat. So as you can see here, we just only one background for PNG. No repeat at all. Another is CSS background position. So it determines the position of the background image. So example, so we have padding 70 pixels. Background, of course, that's image works again. Assuming that the file name of our background is bg2.png. Background does repeat, no repeat. Then background position is 100 pixels. So as you can see here, based on the given output, it must be almost within the center. Okay, then to determine CSS background attachment. So that determines whether or not the background image scrolls with the outer container. So as what we have here, we have the padding, height, width, background image. And as you can see here, we have overflow, then automatic, background attachment fix, and so on. So this will be the sample output. And the other one is the shorthand code. So you can use the background property to set all the background properties at once. So, and of course, the padding is 70 pixels, the height is 70 pixels, the width is 150 pixels, then the background, of course, repeat, fix, overflow, automatic. Okay, and this will be the sample output for that. And that's it for the CSS background code. CSS also allows you to set style for the borders of any HTML element. It also provides you with a way of setting border styles for one or more sides of an element. So the following examples demonstrate the various CSS properties you can use to apply styles to the border of any HTML site. or HTML element. So setting borders on all slides. To set border style for all sides of an element, you use the border dash width, border style, and border dash color properties. You can also use the border property to set all property at once. So based on what we have here, this will be an example of border dash width, border dash style, and border dash color. The border property is shorthand for setting border dash width or border dash style and border dash color. So as what we have here, and this will be the sample output. Then the border style can have the following style. So as you can see here, we have a solid, dotted, dash, double, groove, ridge, double ridge, inset, outset, and hidden. And this will be the code. An additional code for that is this one. Setting border for each side. So explicit properties. So as what we have here, we have how many? Bottom color, bottom style, bottom width, left color, left style, left width, right color, right style, right width, top color, top style, and top width. So based on the given example, if you don't want the border setting to be applied to all four sides, or if you want each side to have different style applied, you can use the following explicit properties actually. So this will be an example again, and the sample output. For the shorthand properties, the following properties provide you with a more concise way of specifying borders properties for each side. So border dash bottom, border dash left, border dash right, border dash top. So, and this will be the sample output for that. Then we have also border radius. You can give your borders rounded corners by using the border dash radius property. So as what we have here.